Hello, Spring here. Right, going to change the oil on the gearbox oil on the Escort 1.6 CVH 1984 5-speed manual. Just went out for a little day out, me and Tracy. Went up to Driffield Way, Bainton, up in Yorkshire, North Yorkshire. Drove beautifully, 105 miles round trip, absolutely spot on. She ran exceptionally well on the motorway. She likes 70, 80 miles an hour. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Used hardly any fuel. Fantastic. So when I got back, because it's the longest trip she's done in a day, I thought I'd just have a little check round, look for any extra leaks. I found a little leak there on the speedo input to the gearbox, or output from the gearbox. Now that's been seeping since I got the car. For some strange reason I never actually checked it. I just assumed that the seal had gone. So it was seeping a little bit, tiny bit. And anyway, when I got back I checked it, and lo and behold, the collar was actually loose. So I spun it back out, pulled out the outer cable, give it a good clean up, put it back in. And what you have to do with this, I don't know if you can see from there, but on the cable itself, there's a squared off section. If you grip that with some pliers or a mole grip, and then you spin, the only thing I found to go on there was a 3/4 AF spanner, which was near enough. So you hold the centre steady and then do that up, and it's gone down nice and tight. So I've cleaned that up. We'll see if it actually leaks in the future. But yeah, I hadn't even thought to check to see if it was done up tight. I've had this a year now. So that was that. And also the last person who tried to put it in hadn't held the cable part with pliers, because the whole thing was wound up. When I released that, it spun about 4 times back. So it's now as it should be. There goes the spanner in the drain box. I found a tiny leak, which I can't show you from here, but there's 3 screws here that keep the 2 halves of the distributor together, and on the bottom screw there was just a tiny little drip, occasional drip, and it dripped onto the gearbox. So even though I changed this distributor, and I changed these bolts because they were a bit naff. This is a new distributor, but it's used, but it was newer than what came off. This is the Lucas modern conversion. Anyway, even though I went through it all, I obviously didn't do these 3 screws up nice and tight. I must have just assumed that because they held the 2 halves together and no one was going in there, that they'd be tight. So I did a little crank on all 3 of those, and that leak has stopped now, although it's not running. So we'll see, we'll keep an eye on that. They didn't feel like they wanted to really crank too much, so if it actually leaks again next time, what I'm going to do is I'll pull a distributor off, and I'll change these, the 3 of them. I shall just put little Allen bolts in with the nylock nut on the back. There's plenty of room. I shall do what I did to these, except these I didn't put a nut on. So that's that. Anyway, then while I was looking at gearbox, I thought, well, I wonder, I haven't actually touched the gearbox oil in this since I've had it, and I've changed everything else, so it would make sense to check it. So I've been in the manual empty thing. That's where the filler plug was that I've taken out, which is on this particular box, a number 50 Torx. Depending on the designation of the gearbox, the suffix letter on it, it can be an Allen key one, it can be a Torx one, all manner of things, and they don't tell you what size. So I managed to get that out. It wasn't too badly seized in. Just used one of these and that big spanner on the end of it for leverage, and it just cracked. Anyway, now in the manual, let's go down bottom, I'll show you. In the manual it says, like a lot of cars, particularly modern cars, bear with me while I get underneath. All that oil, by the way, is just what pissed out of here because it was red hot when I undid it, and obviously the oil had expanded past the filler, so I'm just catching that. Anyway, in the manual it says don't change the gearbox oil, you don't need to, it's not a maintenance bit, just periodically check the level and top it up if necessary. Well, that's alright, but when your car's 33 years old, it can get a little bit stinky. So this stuff is rank and definitely due a change. So underneath in the manual where it says don't change the gearbox oil, just top it up, it then has a little paragraph that says if you do need to change the oil, i.e. if you're taking a box out and you need to get inside there and you need to drain it, you need to take this one out, which I forget what it's called. It's something like a neutral lock. So in here apparently there's a spring and a pin, and it either, I think it locks it in neutral if you're taking the box out. To be honest, I didn't even bother reading up on that, so it just says undo this, there'll be a spring in there and a pin, watch out. So I haven't undone this yet, and that's how you drain it, and then you can refill it. So although don't change the oil, if you do have to change the oil, take that out, drain it, and then to measure the new oil, depending on where you look. Oh no, where's it gone? I've lost it. Right, capacity, anything between 2.1 anything between 2.8 and 3.1 litres, but it says, I've lost it, I made a tool to measure it and it's gone. I might have to pause a minute. Basically it said, depending on the gearbox, 5mm down from the hole, the filler hole. So it says bend yourself a bit of metal and mark off 5mm underneath the bottom of the hole. So I took an Allen key, chopped the end off it and put a mark 5mm down, and I appear to have dropped that somewhere. So I'm going to pause and find it. Yeah, as I thought, it was in the pan of oil. Right, please focus, please focus. Basically, I took an Allen key, chopped the end off, and I've put a little notch. Come on, focus please. Put a little notch in the end, like a dipstick, and that is 5mm from the flat, this flat part, not from the curve on the corner. Oh well, anyway, I want to get this bottom thing out and let it drain. Okay, well, I've just literally given that a little tap with the edge of the hammer and that's gone free. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sorry the drain plugs, drain bowl's in your way, but needs must. I'm trying to do it so you can see what I'm actually doing rather than me just doing it and then showing you afterwards. So, and apparently there's a spring and a clip or something, so this should be quite interesting. It's a 19mm, by the way. Oh, and also it says when you're doing this, make sure the car's level. Well, I've got a big 1 metre spirit level and I've put it across the bonnet slam panel from 2 identical points. It's level that way, and I put it across the sill on the door sill and it's level that way, or near as damn it. So, right, I don't know where the pin is, but the spring is on the end of this. Well, no, it's not. Maybe it's still in there. I'm gonna have to watch out for that. That's what's in. Whoop, there's the pin. Right. Right, that's spring loaded. So, yeah, that is like a cam chain tensioner of sorts. So there's the pin. Whee! It comes out and the spring's inside there. I can feel it. So very interesting. Somehow that locks it in neutral. I think I might have lied, depending on how well I didn't read the next paragraph. So now I'm going to let that drain forever. And shame it's not smelly vision, because that absolutely stinks. That's proper due for changing. Right, I'm going to pause it now and have a cup of tea, coffee, fag. Right, that is selector shaft locking mechanism cap nut. It says just take it out, drain it. And if you want to pause on that, you can find out what it's all about. It says when you put it back in, put some sealant on the threads. So I was going to do that anyway, but it's nice to know that you're supposed to. Yeah, and with the oil levels, where is it? Oh, it's completely different. The oil levels, depending on what gearbox is, depending on how many millimeters from the bottom of the drain plug hole it should be. Some of them it's 5mm to 10mm. Some of them it is 2mm to 5mm, depending on the suffix number on your gearbox on the tab on one of the top mounting bolts. Well, I've looked at the tab. In here it says if it's type D it's 5mm to 5mm max, 10mm min, and if it's type E it's 2mm minimum max, whatever, 2 to 5mm. Well, mine says type A. So heaven knows. So what I've just gone for the 5, because one of them it's 2 to 5mm, the other one it's 5 to 10mm. So I figured it'll either be at the bottom of one or the top of the other, but it'll still be within range. So if I make it 5mm, well, that's how I see it anyway. What do you think? Let me know. I'm sure you will. Okay, right, time for coffee and fags while it drains. Which it is doing. Another little note on this. It says if you've got a 1986 onwards model, you can't take that out because there's a support leg bit of the chassis in the way of it. So you can only take that out if you take the gearbox out. So it says in there you can't drain the gearbox if you've got a 1986 onwards. So that's fun. Thank God it's a 1984. And then the other thing is, on inspection, there's a flat on this pin. There's no mention of that flat at all in this manual whatsoever. I'm hoping it doesn't locate on something. I'm hoping, this is me guessing, like when I was pushing that in earlier, all the oil in there was pissing out of where that little flat is. So I'm hoping that flat is just to let oil in to there, to all the slidey spring bit. But no doubt we'll find out when I put it back together, and if I can't select any gears, somehow we'll have to find out which way round that goes. Great fun, but I'm sure it's just for oil. What do you think? Answers on a postcard, please. Right, I've had a look in there, shone my torch down the hole, and there isn't anything for that little flat to locate in. It's literally the rounded bit of the pin goes into the slotty recess inside the selector rod or whatever it is. So I think I'm safe. And pause. Right. The only sealant I possess at the moment is some RTV instant gasket. That'll have to do. I've run out of blue Ilamar. I've got some red, but that's sort of pretty shit. I think that's for drastic seals on water stuff, my experience. So black RTV it is, without dropping the pin. Now I've covered it all in oil. That's obviously what that little flat face is for, because that's just pissed oil out everywhere. Right. Sorry, you can see. Whee, it's coming out again. That's it. Ton of that round the thread. And I just knocked you over. No, I need a tripod. Let's see if you can see what I can see. Need an assistant camera person. I'll have to use one of the cats. Luca's always around, so. Right. I can't see what I'm actually doing. I'm looking through the screen on my phone, so that I can let you see what's going on. Right. So there you go. I'm doing it all for you. Doing it badly, all for you, of course. I don't think Martin Scorsese's got any fear of losing his job anytime soon. Just assuming he's still alive. Apologies for that, the Scorsese family, if he's dead. Very important to make stupid noises as well, as Alexis Sale proved in Bambi, the first episode of the second series of The Young Ones. If you're feeling down and you've got no choices, don't frown, turn around and make some stupid noises. Yeah. Oh, that just sort of goes solid there. So, that's it, full stop. So I'm just going to give that a little tap, because all I did was give it a little tap to come off. That's weird. That's like, that's in. That's probably why they say put some sealant on it. So let me grab Thammer. Oh, in typical paranoid style. I took it back out because I thought, did I check to see if that rod was in there that's spring loaded, and has it gone in properly and everything? Well, yeah, the rod was in there and the spring, and then I took it out and there was no sealant on the thread whatsoever. So I resealed it, put it back in, and it's just odd. It feels like it just completely bottoms out. So I just gave it 4 little taps with a hammer. Hopefully that's in. There's no torque setting or anything for it. So anyway, next conquest, which I'm sure I won't be able to film, is to just keep putting the oil in there. When I get to about 2.5 litres, I shall put it in little bit by little bit, so that I can measure it in my little stick I've made out of an Allen key. So we'll have a look at that. Make sure I have a tripod. Righty, I thought I'd show what I'm doing for the first bit, because I just thought if you've never had to fill up a gearbox or a transfer box or a differential before, it's an enormous amount of fun, because what you get is these bottles with a little spout on it. Normally it's like really impossible to get that spout in the hole, or you've got to bend it in half or whatever. But this, he says, this doesn't look too bad actually, access wise. We'll see. I'll try and film what I'm doing. I've lost that little blooming Allen key again. I'm sure that's it's probably in the oil drain pot again. So yeah, when you get them, they look like that. You pull up these tabs, then one-handed pull that out, and that pulls a little spout up. Then you take the top off and squirt her in. There's my little key. Right, sort yourself out, Springy. Here goes. Right. Push the spout in a bit, I think, to start with. Now I've got to try and pull the spout out while it's in there. Right, that's in the hole. Basically, you just got to keep squeezing this until it's empty. So I'm going to do this now off camera because I've got to get best part of 3 bottles in. I'm going to put 2.5 bottles in, so it's 2.5 litres, and the actual measurement is somewhere between 2.8 and 3.1 litres. So if I get 2.5 in, then I use my little device to measure the level, and then I'll pop the plug back in. So this is probably going to take me 10-20 minutes to get this in, so I'll see you in a bit. Well, yeah, this stuff takes forever to get in. You're pushing it and then there's a vacuum in it and that, so I just had a little thought. I'm going to bang a hole in the bottom of that and see if it will go any easier. So see what happens. Well, started cutting a hole in it and I thought, yeah, just make it into a funnel. I'll tell you what, as soon as I got a hole in that end, obviously, like the old carnation cream or milk, instant blooming whatever it's called, you get your can, carnation milk, put a hole in it, nothing happens. Put 2 holes in it, it pisses out. Yeah, basic physics, Springthorpe. So now that's gone in, I have might have to put an extra funnel on this. I have a funnel to pour the rest in, and that bit of electrical tape will probably let go and it'll go everywhere. See what's happening. Yep, it's going down of its own accord. Gravity will pull you through. Thanks for the quote, Martin Fry of ABC. So that'll be the 2nd litre. The Pinto, the 2 litre. Right, I shall wait till that disappears. Right, well, I guess undoing that bottom thing that it told you to drain from does not get all of the oil out the gearbox, because I got less than 2.5 litres in and it started, it's, as you can see, it's just pissing out now. So I'm going to have to wait until that stops running, and that level, like you do on a diff, that level is actually 5mm higher than it says it should be. So, oh well, that's interesting. I'm not sure how I'm going to get out a little bit, but I'm sure I'll devise a way. Actually, I've got some syringes with little tubes, and I've even got one of them vacuum pumps for not on this one. One you stick down a dipstick to empty your oil without doing your sump plug. I've got one of them, I haven't used yet, so anyway, I'll probably just get a syringe and syringe some out until that level is correct on my little marker stick. Yeah, so there's probably half a litre still in the bottom of the gearbox of the old stuff. That's probably so a little bit of duff information in the manual saying take out that bottom thing, but I've just gone with what they said. So 2.3 litres of clean oil in amongst the probably half a litre of old oil. It's not going to do it any harm, and now I know how to do it. I can always do it again in a next 1,000 miles time, or next service I might drop it again and refresh it. We'll see how it goes, but it's got to be better for it. Right, that's at the level of the bottom of the filler hole now. It's just starting to stop dripping, so I'm going to give that a bit, maybe try and extract a little bit, use my measurer. The bottom drainy bolt device thing, what's it, is 30 Newton meters to do it back up. I didn't, even my long reach sockets weren't long enough to get on that, so I guess that one. And the top one is, what did it say, 23 to 30, so I've set my torque wrench at 27. Sort of a nice mark on there was out of focus. 26 plus 1, so it bang in the middle. What I'm doing is I'm sitting my 14 stone 12 pounds on this corner of the car so that it tilted the gearbox forward a bit and the load came chucking out. It's still a bit high, so I'm gonna have to work on that for a bit. Alright, well that is near enough on the little mark there. I'll stick that back in, do it up there. Where is it? 27 Newton meters. Button it up, clean it up, get inside, make sure I've still got all my gears, and that'll be it. Oh, just before I run out of battery in my phone and there's no focus. Yeah, all gears fine. All good. That's probably my imagination, but it actually feels a lot slicker going into reverse than it did. So, who knows? We'll take it out for a test drive tomorrow. That's it. I'm done. Battery's pretty much run out. Clear up all this mess. Seem to have gone a bit fuzzy. I think that's because the battery's about to die. So, thanks for watching. I've been Springy. See you next time. Cheers.